What is up, YouTube? Alright, this is another set of video where I promised you some combos showcasing to you the basic lines for the Mermail Marincess deck. It is a very flexible deck and it does require a lot of 1-card, 2-card combos, and I thought I'll just showcase to you guys just a bit of a preview as to what combos you can do. You'll notice the combos lead to more or less the same end boards, but I think it's important to understand the interactions just in case, you know, you open a certain hand and you're not sure what to do. This video is for you. So I hope you do enjoy it. Please make sure to leave a like, follow, and subscribe if you enjoy. And I do have some bonus combos which I'm not showing in this video. But if you want to see that, let me know by leaving a like on this video and let's get on to it. So we're going to go over about 20-ish combos. It's about 25 or so. But most of them are repetitive in the sense of the end board you'll see is different because there are two end boards. One is Marincess Aqua Argonaut and the other one is the Mermail King Neptabyss. Behind it is Link for Great Bubble Reef with Marincess Wave, and of course your graveyard setup is still going to be there. So I will mention all the potential things in the beginning. But then as we go on with the combos, you'll see it's actually repetitive based on what you're seeing. So it's more about just understanding, okay, these are the basic lines you can do to get to the same board state. And then from there, you decide what you want to do. Depending on the matchup, you can either go Argonaut line first, Argonaut line will be always unaffected with Wave, plus follow up in Grave with Coral Triangle. Or you can go into Mermail King Neptabyss with either, you know, Coral Triangle with the spell equip, or you can go Bubble Reef Link 4. That's normally the default. So I don't mention the spell equip combo line here because it just depends on the matchup. So if you identify in the matchup that you can go Mermail King Neptabyss and maybe Coral Triangle, then with the equip spell. Sometimes if you have an extender additionally, then you can go into, you know, the equip spell with the Bubble Reef, but you literally have 3 options. So that is the flexibility that you have. So it doesn't seem like much, but there are some lines where you do get additional disruptions. For example, Abyss Shrine with infantry in hand. Sometimes you can get to it, other times you won't. But it's a relatively consistent combo line if you master it. And it even gets better if you have additional extenders because it means you have further plays, even if you get disrupted at some point. Because remember, the main goal of the deck obviously is still a Marincess deck, but it is at its core very important to understand the interactions with the Mermail Atlantean engine that you can use to bridge into your Marincess, you know, deck. Because you can literally open 0 Marincess cards and still end on a Marincess board. So that's the nice thing about this engine. It's very, very flexible. And worst case, if you're going second, which I'll explain in another video, where we'll be going over some going second gameplay just to show you what the breakdown is going second. But this video is strictly just to show you the basic combos to get you started in learning the ins and outs of a Mermail Marincess deck. And yeah, we're going to start off with obviously the 1-card combos, and then we're going to go into the 2-card combos with different variations of cards based on what you open. And you'll see it's literally repeating itself most of the time. So I will explain the unique interactions, but there'll be a time where I will not like explain the same thing over and over again, because I'll show you like the main point when we get to the 1-card combo lines, and afterwards it's pretty much the same thing. I'll show you, also mention specifically which ones are, you know, anti-Nibiru lines and which ones are sometimes additional options depending on what your hand is. So I will mention those things. But the main thing you want to know is, okay, this is the combo step by step. This is the main play that you do, the sequencing, and this is the end board that you end on, how many disruptions you end on, as well as your follow-up, as well as, you know, whether, you know, at this point you should Ash or Droll or Nibiru, if it's good enough or not. So we'll definitely dive into that. So I hope you understand that this is a very insightful video, hopefully. And even if you are an existing Marincess player and you want to try out this engine, I would definitely consider it. So if you're having doubts on whether you think you should run the Mermail cards or not, I think this is the video for you to have a look at first, and then you can decide for yourself whether you want to invest in that engine or not. So without any further time, let's get straight into combo number 1 with Neptabyss, the Atlantean Prince. Right. So this is, again, This is the 1-card line you have if you open Neptabyss the Atlantean Prince. Now there's many ways to access Mermail Atlantean Prince or Neptabyss Atlantean Prince in your deck. If you have way for Small World, your Heart Opener, there's many ways to search it. So we just assume you have Neptabyss the Atlantean Prince and nothing else. What can you do? So remember, 1 card can generate you literally a lot. So it's actually a very good normal summon in the deck, because just like Blue Tang was considered your best normal summon in the deck. Now actually Neptabyss the Atlantean Prince is actually your best normal summon, because it plays very well into hand traps like Ash, Veiler, Imperm. Those effects don't really work because, remember, as I did explain in the introductory tips and tricks video, that Neptabyss plays well into hand traps, whereas your Blue Tang and your other normal summons in your Marincess deck normally are weaker to hand traps. So you don't really have a lot of plays beyond that. But at least Neptabyss, remember, it sends the Atlantean Dragoons, it chains the Shadow Squad for cost. So even though your Neptabyss might get negated, you will still have plays even in the follow-up. So they have to have multiple hand traps to negate on different chains, which is normally impossible. So what can you do with Neptabyss? So we're obviously going to first normal summon it. And this is, like I said, as I showed you in the introductory video why the engine is good, you're going to send the Shadow Squad. Send the Shadow Squad to add Dragoons. This is normally what you'll see if you play Mermail Atlantean pure. So you'll find there's actually a lot of similarities in terms of the line that you go. The only difference is there's a different bridge point, which I'll get to in a moment. So once you've triggered Shadow Squad, remember, Shadow Squad, just to don't know what the effect is, it will trigger because it was sent to the graveyard to activate a Water Monster's effect to summon a level 4 or lower Atlantean or Mermail from the deck, except itself. But you're locked into the extra deck for the rest of the turn, except Water Monsters. That's very important. This does not lock you with Zelantis' effect, because it only locks you from the extra deck, not for the rest of the turn. So do note that in mind. This card and also Abyss Shrine has that clause. So you're going to summon what from the deck? How would I say, the Garnet, or people call it the Brick, Mermail Abyss Pike. And it's very important because Abyss Pike is actually very useful in this combo, because when it's summoned, so when means it can miss timing, so do note of that. It can discard a water monster to add a level 3 water monster from your deck to your hand. So of course, it plays nicely with Dragoons, because Dragoons is not once per turn, and it will trigger multiple times. So we're going to discard that, and we're going to add the Marincess Seahorse. So this is important because this is the bridge basically between the Mermail cards as well as the Marincess cards, because the level 3 Seahorse is actually the bridge, because Abyss Pike can search it from the deck directly. So this is how you bridge into your Marincess combo lines. And the nice thing about Seahorse is that it can summon to a link zone and Marincess monster point to, which we'll explain in a second how we get there. We're going to trigger Dragoons again. Now this is where you have a choice of either adding Poseidra, the Storming Atlantean, or you can add Abyss Shrine. So I showcase in this combo Poseidra, because Poseidra is generally good for follow-up in case you get disrupted somewhere. Maybe they hold the imprint for later or whatever, but normally this is where I like to search Poseidra normally. But if you already have Poseidra in your hand, let's say, then this is where you can search something like Abyss Shrine, just so you can push through your plays and further extend. So we're going to add Poseidra here, and now we need to make sure that we have 3 bodies on field. So why do we need 3 bodies on field? Because we need to establish a link 2 plus another Fish, Sea Serpent, or Aqua. Then Seahorse has a link zone that it can summon, therefore you can now do your combo from there. So in this case, we're going to use Poseidra's effect to send a water monster from deck to grave, from the hand or field. And note, Poseidra only tributes face-up cards, because it says their hand or face-up field. When I get to the Shrine combo later, it's a bit different. So you'll see the interaction with that. So you send a Neptabyss, and you summon Poseidra from the hand. And in doing so, you also trigger the Atlantean Prince to reborn a Atlantean. Can be any Atlantean, whether it's a Xyz, Link, anything. As long as there's an Atlantean in the name, you can summon it from the grave. So you can literally summon anything. I just summon Dragoons normally, but it can literally be a Shadow Squad. It can be any Atlantean, because at that point there'll be 2. Right? So this is actually what you want to have. You want to have 3 bodies on field, as well as a Seahorse. Now that you have a Seahorse in your hand, now you need to make a Marincess Link monster. So in this case, you're going to make a Crystal Heart. Now, Crystal Hearts is nice because A, it'll help you play around Nibiru. Because in this case, you see now we don't have an answer to Nibiru because at this point we've summoned, 4 times. When you summon Crystal Heart, you will be able to play around Nibiru. So even if you're in Nibiru at that point, you still have a way to extend still. And worst case, you have Crystal Heart on field along with other cards in your hand to further extend. So this is actually, in all the combos, you're more or less Nibiru proof because you try and at least get a Crystal Heart under 5 summons, as well as either having a Minstrel to discard and pick that Nibiru or snap a potential hand trap, then you can play from there. So this is what you're going to do. I'm going to link off you literally can link off any 2 to go into Crystal Heart. Now Crystal Heart's going to be open now for Seals to summon. Now this is the bridge. So from here. So you notice I went Sea Angel here because this is going to be showing you the unaffected Argonaut line. So you'll see the bridge is basically going to be Seahorse, Crystal Heart, and any monster that you've summoned, right? Doesn't have to be a spike all the time. It can be literally, as long as there's a different monster that you link summon with, it's totally fine. So here in this case, you're going to go for the Argonaut line. And with the Argonaut line, you're going to go for Sea Angel first. Because remember, you're not going into a Mermail King Neptabyss, which you can do to start your plays differently. But we're not going for that line in this combo line. So we're going to go search for the field spell. Okay? And we're not searching any more Marincess monsters in this combo. We're using the monster that we already used, which is Seahorse only. We use those 2 monsters into Corin Enemy because Corin Enemy is a generic link 2 for water monsters per se because it requires 2 waters. So you can use Abyss Spike and the other, Marincess link 1, which is normally Sea Angel. And now you're going to reborn a monster with 1500 or less attack. Normally, you're going to always go for a Marincess monster here because remember, we want to make sure that we ensure follow-up. So to go follow-up, we need to make sure we summon Coral Triangle. Coral Triangle, remember, is only requiring at least 2 Marincess monsters. So you cannot use a Fist Sea Serpent or Aqua to link into that. So we can use Corin Enemy's effect to reborn the Seahorse. And then we're going to use Seahorse to link off into Blue Slug. Because remember, you haven't used the link 1 yet, Blue Slug. So we can use Blue Slug now to add back the Seahorse. So why do we do this? We do this so we can actually discard off of the effect of Coral Triangle to search Marincess Wave. So that's why we add that back. Now we link off Coral Enemy and Blue Slug into the Coral Triangle link 3. Now, normally in the combo, you would actually trigger Coral Enemy's effect to add back a Marincess card. But in this case, you can see from the grave, there is no viable target because you don't want to actually put your links back into the extra deck. You actually normally would have added back a normal Marincess main deck monster, but in this case, because you have it in the hand already, you do not activate an enemy's effect. Otherwise, if you do that, you're accidentally going to send the link back, and you typically don't want that because I'll explain at the end what's going to happen. Now we link summon Coral Triangle, discard the water monster, which is Teus, and add Marincess Wave, and now we're going to link off into the Aqua Argonaut. And then we're going to use the link to equip. And now you can see based on the end board, right? Even though we're ending the turn here, this is basically the end board that we have. So what do we have? We have a Aqua Argonaut, which is unaffected because we use Crystal Heart as a link material. And while we control Battle Ocean, it is unaffected by all card effects, right? And that's very good because it's basically a Towers, which is very difficult to beat. It's also a spell and trap negate, so it reborns a link monster that's equipped to it, and you can negate a spell or trap. Remember, it negates the effect, so it can come up in situations like, for example, Branded's very popular right now. It can negate a card like Branded Fusion, which is negating the effect. Whereas, even under Branded Loss, you can actually negate that, so it's actually quite powerful. Then at the same time, you also have Marincess Wave, which is also almost like an imperm, but it's activated from your hand, and it makes your monsters unaffected. So depending on what the situation is in the matchup, you at least have a spell trap negate, you have a monster negate, and then in terms of your follow-up, you also have Coral Triangle engraved to reborn a link. Now normally with Argonaut, you're actually going to summon the Coral Enemy most of the time. Coral Enemy is going to rebuy back any water monster that is 1500 or less. I like to normally go for Neptabyss, Atlantean Prince for, going second place. But you can literally reborn anything you want, and you can further combo off from there and close out the game. So what is your end board? Unaffected Argonaut with Marincess Wave in hand, Plus, you have Coral Triangle for follow-up, and that is basically going to be your game plan with this combo line. So remember, this is the Neptabyss Atlantean Prince combo line to get to unaffected Argonaut. Now I'm going to show you another line where you can go a different direction. All right. So again, we're back in the same place. This is the same Neptabyss line that we showed before. So we're going to actually speed this up a little bit. And I'll show you where the combo is going to be slightly different than before. The Shadow Squad is going to trigger, summon Pike from the deck. Pike's going to discard Dragoons, add Seahorse. Dragoons is going to search for Poseidra. Poseidra is going to tribute the Atlantean Prince. Atlantean Prince is going to reborn any Atlantean. And then here is where you're going to have the bridge. So here is basically, like I said, this is the setup that you want. Once you have the setup, you pretty much can decide, okay, where you want to go. So you saw in the previous combo, we went into unaffected Argonaut line. Now I'm going to show you a different line that you can go to. So now from here, before we start any linking off to Marincess combo, we're going to use Crystal Heart, and we're going to use the remaining Fish, Sea Serpent, or Aqua to make the Mermail King Neptabyss, which is a link 3, right? Because this requires at least 2 monsters, including a Fish, Sea Serpent, or Aqua. So you can use any other monster, even a token, mind you. So even if you get Nibiru for some reason and you have, at least 2 bodies, or at least enough to make a link 3, you can use a token to make this. As long as there's a Fish, Sea Serpent, or Aqua involved, you can make that. So that's a very good interaction there. So we're going to do that. We're going to use this Spike and a Crystal Heart. Then we're going to go into the Mermail King Neptabyss. Now, why is this important? Right? Because this gives you targeting protection. Because it says your opponent cannot target what a monster this card points to with card effects. So that's actually quite useful, because if they're holding a Veiler or an Imperm, now it's pretty much too late, because they're pretty much going to waste their Imperm and Veiler on you. Because it's only going to target the Mermail King Neptabyss, but it's not going to target your monsters pointing to it. So unless you have double Imperm or double Veiler, that's the only way you can beat it. But that's going to be actually a waste of resources from their side. So you're effectively hand ripping your opponent by themselves, because they are the one that's distributing their own stuff. So now we save from Imperm and Veiler. So now we can go full Bubble Reef combo line, which you're going to do, obviously now show you here. So we're going to link off into Sea Angel. Now instead of adding the field spell, we're going to add Dive, of course. Dive is going to reborn the Seahorse. Seahorse is going to link up into Link 1, Blue Slug. And then Blue Slug is going to add back the Seahorse, used for discarding again. And then we're going to go same thing, Foreign Enemy Reborn. So you'll see the combo is going to be pretty much the same once you get there all the time. Use the 2 Marincess monsters to link off into Link 3 Core Triangle again. Right? Now this time, you are going to trigger the Core and Enemy Engraved to add back Marincess Dive, because again, Marincess Dive is a form of follow-up. So it is good. Remember, this is not taking into account other cards in your hand. You might have additional extenders, but this is also just good to add back Dive. It's just a good practice. So if you're going Argonaut line, you normally don't add back anything with Core and Enemy. But in this case, you do have something that's good you want to add back, which is Marincess Dive. Bearing in mind, you might be playing 1 copy of this or 2 copies, so it's still good to have for follow-up. So you're going to add that back. Then you're going to discard the Core Triangle to get Marincess Wave, but also now the difference is, because now you have Mermail King Neptabyss, Mermail King Neptabyss also triggers, because it says if a water monster, it says there, if a water monster is sent to the graveyard to activate a card or effect, during accepting the damage of course, you can take 1 Abyss equip spell from your deck or grave and either add it to your hand or equip it to the card. So those are kind of like the bricks also in the deck, because you obviously play both. You play the new card, the Trainer, which you're going to search now, or you can play the one that equips, negates a spell. Now you might be thinking, why do you select the spell card over the monster one or the trap one? Because spells are more common. Trap cards, unless you're playing against Labyrinth or whatever, then yes, but most of the time people are using spells, so spells is more common. You could also use the monster effect if you want to, but that's not something that is actually important, because you can be unaffected anyway, so monster effects won't really do anything to you. So the more viable one that makes sense is actually getting the equip, because it actually gives you an additional negate, because you can play around things like Super Poly, Dark Ruler. You know, it's more versatile because remember, you're going to end on 2 bodies on the field. So most of the time, you know, Dark Ruler would shut down, or even Super Poly might shut that down, but that card literally says no. So in this case here, we're going to add the Abyssing Triana, which is going to be a monster reborn to get that final body to go into a Link 4. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. Reborn literally any Mermail Atlantean, doesn't really matter. And now we go into the Great Bubble Reef. And now you can see again, based on this is a totally different line again here, because you saw we had unaffected Argonaut. How many disruptions did we have before? We had, you know, we had Spell Trap Negate, Marincess Wave, and Follow-Up. Here again, we still have, you know, more or less interruption in a way, but it's only one in the form of Marincess Wave. But remember, Mermail King is protecting Bubble Reef from being untargetable, and both cards will likely be unaffected. Now, the only thing missing is now you don't have an extra discard to trigger Neptabyss on the opponent's turn, but that's where other lines will come up. Because remember, this is just a 1-card combo. So you still have your follow-up of Marincess Square Triangle. You can in the standby phase use Great Bubble Reef to draw an additional card to potentially get another disruption. So not taking into account other cards in your hand, this is minimum at least still 1 disruption. So every end board you make will at least have 1 form of interruption, at least, because not taking into account your hand traps and other cards you might have in your hand, this is what you can end up. And actually, it's actually not a bad combo. It really is not bad, because it's actually more flexible. And then again, the follow-up is more insane because you can banish your cards. You trigger the Neptabyss again. You can actually reattach the Triana again, and you can reborn Atlantean like the Poseidra, both for getting spinner card back. So it's really good for the follow-up. So all the combos I'll be showing you are literally like resilient, you know, going first to an extent, obviously if they have more stuff. But this is, you see, 1 card Neptabyss Atlantean Prince can give you either unaffected Argonaut, or it can give you this line, which is like all the Bubble Reef line or Neptabyss, King Neptabyss line or whatever, but I would say Bubble Reef line for short. So now that we've understood what the bridges are, now we're going to showcase to you now the other alternative lines you can do with other cards that you can do to achieve the same board. Now, I'm not going to repeat myself most of the time because you'll see most of the interruptions are the same. But where the combos are, the sequencing is different, I will explain, but I'll let the replay run out to explain, to do the rest of the combo, because now you've seen exactly what the lines are, basically. So, without further ado, let's go on to the next combo. Alright, so this is the combo line with just Deep Sea Diva. So why do I have Deep Sea Diva here? Because in case you don't have enough bank to get Neptabyss 2 copies, you can play 1 Neptabyss, 1 Deep Sea Diva. It will literally achieve the same thing. Although this one's not really considered a like a premium normal summon, because this one is also weak to hand traps. So this is an easy Ash, you know, Vela Imperm target. So do note that this is a weaker, you know, line into hand traps. But if it don't have hand traps, then this is what you can do, because basically this also basically gives you another copy of Neptabyss in a way. So let's see what this combo achieves here. So we're going to normal summon the Diva, summon Neptabyss, and you'll see Neptabyss line is basically the same. We're going to go Shadow Squad, Dragoons, Shadow Squad, Abyss Pike, Dragoons, trigger again, Poseidra. So you'll see now the difference here was that instead of now using Poseidra to summon from the hand, you're using it as follow-up. Because remember, you had the additional body of Deep Sea Diva and the Neptabyss. So now you have your 3 bodies on field, yes, and you have a Seos to extend. Now, just to also emphasize, Seos is using all the combos here because that's the bridge from Abyss Pike. But what also works here is that if you also have Trickstar Aqua Angel, that also works. But obviously we're showing you the integration of the Mermail Atlantean engine only, and no other Marincess cards. And the only card that you're going to be working with is Seos from the main deck, and obviously from the extra deck, the other Link monsters. But if you have Trickstar Aqua Angel for some, then you can do other lines which are slightly different. Then that way you can try and actually go for, you know, searching for like a Minstrel, and the Minstrel can discard your Poseidra, then you can go from there. Then you still have Aqua Angel to summon to anywhere because you control a Marincess. Doesn't necessarily have to be a link zone, but you can do that as an option. So if you don't have Seals in that situation, and you have Aqua Angel, you don't have to necessarily search for Seals. You can search for any level 3, which is a Minstrel, if you want to. But in this case, you're not doing that. So now we have the setup. Now I'm going to go Seals. Now we're showcasing to you the Argonaut line. So you see, it's literally a repeat. So the same disruptions and everything is the same. So we're just going to see the combo out, and then I'll take you out to the next combo. So this here is the same line with the Deep Sea Diva, but instead of going for Argonaut, you're going to go for now the Bubble Reef line with Mermail King Neptabyss. So just note here, with this end board here, if you use the Deep Sea Diva line, you actually have an additional follow-up in the form of Poseidra in your hand. So worst case scenario, depending on what's other cards in your hand, also you have a Wave, you have Dive, and you also have Poseidra for further follow-up if need be. So that will be the only difference between the Atlantean Prince line versus the Deep Sea Diva, that you have an additional body for follow. So that's all the one-card combos from the Mermail Atlantean engine that can get you this. So now we're going to go into a slightly different variation now when we go to some two-card combos, and there are quite a few because, of course, there's a lot of combinations that actually can work to get to the same bridge, basically. So after that, then you'll see exactly, like, you know, to show you how versatile this is. So it doesn't really matter what your hand is, you can basically make it work. So this is all the one-card combos, and the two cards that do that is either Neptabyss Atlantean Prince or Deep Sea Diva if you don't have access to Prince, but it's basically the same thing, but just giving access to it gives you that additional body. So instead of using Poseidra, you can just, you know, link off immediately into the play. So that is the end of that. Now we're going to go into the two-card combo lines. All right. So you can see here, this is the, you know, first two-card combo line I'm showing you. So this is with Teus and Atlantean Dragoon. So the two-card combos you'll be seeing is certain cards that discard, that basically anything that requires a discard or sends for cost. Those are the cards that you want to see in your hand, obviously. So Teus, Poseidra, Abyss Shrine, I'll cover all of those cards that require a send or a trigger for cost. So it's either Dragoons or Shadow Squad that will be doing that. So I'll be showing you, you know, the lines you can do with just, you know, the two-card combinations. And this is the first one. So what do we do with the Teus and a Dragoons? It's slightly different to your normal one card combo, but you still get to the same end board. So now let's see what we do here. So we're going to use Teus to discard Dragoons. Now this is going to be a double adding effect, because on a new chain, mandatory trigger is going to be Atlantean Dragoons. That's chain link 1. Chain link 2 is going to be Abyss Teus. If they're imperm here, you don't really worry about this, because again, the discarding effect is for you to just trigger your Atlantean Dragoons or Shadow Squad. The actual effect that you want to do, that will be chain link 2, doesn't really matter. If it gets imperm here, it doesn't really matter, because you will have your Dragoons triggering to add whatever you need. So chain link 1 Dragoons, chain link 2 Teus, and Teus is going to add here Abyss Shrine. And and the reason why you do this is because it helps you play around Droll. So you see in this combination here, this is a nice line that you can do to play around Droll, because Abyss Shrine helps you play around Droll, and you're searching twice in the same chain. So remember, in your first effect, you were summoning from the hand. You did not add anything yet, so now you're adding in the next chain. So if they Droll here, because after you resolve the Abyss Teus and that, you're going to have Abyss Shrine and Neptabyss, and you haven't committed to your normal summon yet. So if they Droll you at that point, you are still good. The only downside is Neptabyss will not able to search, because it must send as part of the cost to add. So if it doesn't send and then doesn't add, it has to be part of the effect. So that's the only thing you lose out on. But the nice thing about this, if you get Drolled, you still can use Abyss Shrine to trigger the Neptabyss and reborn the Atlantean Dragoons and get a third body on field to go into other play. So that's another line to play under Droll. And remember, like I said before, Poseidra, the main deck monster, sends a monster from the hand or face of field. Here, Abyss Shrine is different, because it says you contribute this card from your hand and 1 Atlantean or Mermail monster from your hand or field. So that means even if the monster is flip face down, you can still tribute that card. So it actually plays around things that, let's say the Book of Moon or whatever, and then you actually have a card face down for some reason, you can actually tribute it. So it's actually really nice. So Abyss Shrine is actually a really good effect to play around those type of things. So most people don't know that it actually tributes a face. If it face down or face up, it will tribute. But Poseidra specifically has to tribute face up on the field. So that's something that you can do there. But in this case, you're not going to use Abyss Shrine. Assume you don't get Drolled here, it's fine. And now we start with the normal summon combo, and then you'll see it's the same thing. The only difference now is, remember, like I said, the Abyss Teus here is basically like what Deep Sea Diva was doing, giving you that extra body to go into Neptabyss. So obviously Teus discarded Dragoons added Neptabyss, but now you got that additional body. So your third body is going to be the Abyss Pike. So that means you don't need to do other weird plays. So you're going to send Shadow Squad, add Dragoons. Abyss Pike is going to discard the Dragoons, right? And now add Seahorse. And now the nice thing about this line is actually playing well into Nibiru, because remember, at this point you've only summoned 3 times, because you summoned Abyss Teus, you normal summon the Atlantean Prince, you special summon the Abyss Pike. So there's only 3 summons. You now have access to Minstrel, because now you discarded Dragoons to search for Seahorse, and now that you have an additional body on field, you can actually go for, infantry if you want to. So you can go for infantry or for Minstrel. So in this combo, I showcase that you can go for, heavy infantry to gain additional disruption. But if you don't want to do that, you can search for Deep Sea Minstrel right away, and you can literally discard the Abyss Shrine with the Minstrel and snap in the Nibiru. You can do that. But I'm showing you the maximum interruption that you can do turn 1, assuming you don't get hand trapped. Because obviously all these combos will showcase to you when you don't get hand trapped. But obviously I will indicate which lines are better. This is an anti-Nibiru line, but this is giving you the hand with most disruptions. So we're actually going to use Abyss Shrine's effect to tribute the Neptabyss to get it engraved, because you don't want to discard the infantry, because infantry in the hand is good for your opponent's turn. Because if you use Abyss Shrine's secondary effect during the opponent's turn, you can banish it, discard a card, draw a card. Again, if that effect gets Ash, you're not worried about that because you're worried about triggering heavy infantry, which will be sent to the graveyard card effect, destroy a card, a face-up card your opponent controls. Not once per turn, by the way. So if you somehow send this card to the graveyard from to activate one of monster's effect, it's not once per turn. You can multiple face-up pop card, which is actually quite nice. So in this case here, I'm going to showcase to you how to get access to that. This round I'm going to tribute the Neptabyss and add the Poseidra. And then you're going to do that, reborn, same thing. You got the exact same board state. The only difference is now you basically had two options there. You either could have gone, searching for Minstrel instead of infantry, because remember, Dragoons can search any sea serpent. So I'm showing you in this combo that instead of searching heavy infantry, you could have searched Minstrel, discarded the Shrine with Minstrel, snap the card, and then you play under Nibiru or other hand traps. So you play around hand traps that very well. But this is to show you the maximum interruptions that you can do with Abyss, Teus, and Dragoons. So this will give you, I'll show you at the end how many interruptions you have. So let's play out the combo, how it ends off. And this will be the Argonaut line. So this is the end board that you're going to have when you go Abyss, Teus, and Dragoon. So how many interruptions do we have? So we have unaffected Argonaut, which is a spell trap engage. That's one. We have Marincess Wave, which is another one. Then we also have another disruption in the form of Abyss Shrine, because Abyss Shrine's in the graveyard. So on the opponent's turn, it becomes a disruption because it triggers the inventory, which means we'll pop an additional card. So that also is a third disruption, which now comes up if you go this line. But obviously this line does not respect Nibiru, but then again, by that point, if they would have nibbed, they would have nibbed any at that point, but doesn't really matter. But the main thing is these are the disruptions that you have, and this is what you can do when you go that route. But of course, you could have just gone anti-Nibiru. You still end on a 2 interruptions minimum. The additional bonus now is that you still have the follow-up, with Core Triangle and everything, but then the Abyss Shrine is the new interaction with this line specifically. So this is Abyss, Teus, Dragoons, gives you 3 interruptions, and that is that. So now we're going to show you a different line now, same Abyss, Teus, Dragoons, but now with the other line. Yeah, this is the same setup that we had before. Teus, discard Dragoons, chain link 1 Dragoons, chain link 2 Teus. Chain link 2 is going to add the Abyss Shrine again to help you play around Droll. And this is going to be a Neptabyss again. Neptabyss is going to send Shadow Squad. Shadow Squad is going to add Dragoons again. We're going to summon Abyss Pike from the deck. Abyss Pike is going to discard Dragoons, going to add Seals. Dragoons is going to add Minstrel. So in this line, I showed you specifically what you do when you search Minstrel. So now you see Minstrel and Abyss Shrine is your extra discard, and then now you can search your opponent's hand before you commit to any plays and see, okay, they have a Nibiru or a potential hand trap. You play around it and you're good to go. If they have Imperm, you don't care about Imperm. You rather just keep Imperm because it's not going to really you can get rid of it from your opponent. But if it's like a Nibiru, an Ash, those ones are more impactful. And even a Droll, but obviously it would have Droll at that point. But the main thing is if it's an Imperm, you don't really care because you're going into the Bubble Reef line. Bubble Reef line doesn't really care about Imperm because you have Mermail King Neptabyss protecting your Marincess combo. If you're going for the Argonaut line, then I would obviously dish the Imperm because remember, you're not going into Neptabyss, King Neptabyss. You're going into Sea Angel. and you can get imperm, therefore you stop your combo from going into Argonaut. Then you have to go to Bubble Reef line after that. So that's the only difference between that. But that's what you do if you're going the Bubble Reef line. This is what you do. So I'm just showing you that combo that you can do there with Minstrel. And then again, the combo is the same. You've seen it all before. So everything leads to the same bridge, the same endpoint. So once you study it and you master it the first time, you pretty much got the main line going there. So we're gonna see the combo out. It's gonna be the same interruption as before, and we'll take you to the next line. So this is just again showing you Abyss, Teus, and Dragoons, two different combo lines. Now I'm gonna show you something different now when it comes to something else being discarded from Dragoon. So after this replay, we'll go into the next one. Okay, so this one is now with Poseidra and Dragoons. So yeah, you're not going to be searching here again. The only time you'll be searching is when you trigger Dragoons here. So again, different chain link you'll be searching, but this is just to summon Dragoons from the hand, summon Poseidra from the hand by discarding Dragoons. Then you'll see the line is basically the same. So the difference between Neptabyss on its own versus like something to discard Dragoons is that now you have an additional body on field. So that's the difference. So we're going to, you know, showcase to you what happens here. So we're going to discard the Dragoons, summon Poseidra. Now, if you're going second, this is just a tip. If you're going second, Poseidra will trigger to send something further. But obviously, this is for showing going first. But for going second, Poseidra will trigger to spin a card back. So sometimes if you are doing your combo for the first time and let's say they have a back row or whatever, you can literally spin it back or a monster, anything. It targets anything and send it back. So that's really nice. Then you're gonna get your Neptabyss, and then your Neptabyss is gonna be sending Shadow Squad. So you see, it's literally the same thing you do going first. You're trying to prioritize, okay, getting 3 bodies on field, trying to see if you can go in the Biru line or not. In this case here, you cannot. So because you see, your Dragoons here are searching for a Minstrel, but this is taking into account if you have another water monster in hand, you can discard it there at that point. But if you don't, you have Minstrel for whatever you. This could literally be an infantry, it could be any sea serpent, but obviously the main one will be Minstrel because most of the time you'll have another water monster that you have other than Seahorse. Then you can use that to, again, you're under 5 summons, you can do some plays here. So I'm just showing you that this is also a kind of a anti-Nibiru line if you have another discard in your hand. But in this case, we just say, okay, just to end the combo, we're searching any sea serpent. And now we do the same combo as we did before. So again, all the combos that I'm showing you, whether it's 1 card or 2 card, they all end on either Argonaut line or Bubble Reef line. So you can literally decide what you do depending on the matchup. That's really up to you. But you obviously can assess based on what, if you're able to resolve Deep Sea Minstrel, you know what the best end board is. So that will be up to you to decide what you want to do here. So let's just speed it up. Because the combos are always going to be linear. Like it's just how you get there. So you see, doesn't matter how you started. Like you will eventually, you know, based on the sequencing, you'll get to the same endpoint. And you notice all the combos here are consistent. It's the same relatively end board, unaffected Argonaut with Wave, plus additional things. You're still gonna have follow up, so everything's gonna be there. So everything checks out. So you can never say you had a bad turn 1 because even if you get blown out turn 2, your follow up is even greater. Then the sky's the limit from there. So this is again Poseidra Dragoons. Let's show you the other line when you go into Bubble Reef. Okay, so this combo is with Deep Sea Minstrel, but with Dragoons. So this line is actually very nice because this lets you set up all your plays. You can see what your opponent's having in their hand and you know exactly what you're gonna do from there. So let's assume you want to go Argonaut line. You're obviously gonna snap that out and you play it out. And like I said, Dragoons is gonna search Neptabyss. Then that Neptabyss combo will be the same that you learned earlier from the one card combo. So you see, that's why I started off with the one card combo first, because once you see what the one card combo does, Dragoons basically gives you access to that one card combo. So it's just basically another copy of Prince. So effectively, even though you're playing 2 Prince in the deck and maybe 1 Diva, you still effectively playing like 6 because you still have Dragoons, which basically also is like a Prince also. So what we do here, Minstrel is going to discard Dragoons. Again, if Minstrel gets negated for some reason, which I don't know how they're going to get negated, but okay. You're going to pick at the hand, snap something, and then you're going to combo from there. Right? A potential hand trap that you know you can play around and it's fine, and you go from there, but you see the line is exactly the same. Dragoons, Pike, you know, the same thing. Pike, add Seahorse, Dragoons, add Poseidra, and then you go from there. So it's the same thing you've seen the whole time. And like I said, we'll show you the combos that are unique, that are slightly different, but the bridge and the end boards are pretty much similar. So we're not going to repeat everything in terms of the interruption and stuff, but I will talk about the unique things. But yeah, you can see every single 1 card, 2 card variation I'm showing you, it leads to the same more or less end board. It's just decide which one you want to do. And that's what I like about this, because it gives you flexibility. So all the combos give you, and remember, not taking into other cards in your hand. This is what you can do, and it's actually not that bad. So again, no Marincess card open, but yet you still end on a Marincess board, which is a good board, and you still have follow up as well. So now this combo here is going to be Minstrel and Dragoons, but now going into the Bubble Reef line. So again, it's just depending on what you see in the hand and what you want to go into, you literally can decide for that matchup specifically what's best. So that's why I'm showing you both to showcase, okay, this is, you literally have flexibility. So once you get to the same bridge, it's the same. Alright, so this one here is specifically going to be Abyss Shrine and Dragoons. When you tribute it for cost to summon a body or add a monster from your deck to your hand. So it's a level 7 for Sea Serpent or Aqua. Either add it to your hand or summon it. So let's see what we can do with just Abyss Shrine and a Dragoons. So we're going to obviously use Abyss Shrine effect to tribute it. Add Poseidra in this case. And then you're going to search for Neptabyss, and then we've all seen what happens. You see, it's going to repeat itself again. Neptabyss is going to combo. You have Poseidra still to summon, and it's the same result that you're going to have. So it's like I said, this deck is relatively consistent enough. Like even the combos you're doing are so linear, it doesn't feel like it's a lot. But I will emphasize here, this is the difference. So here again, because of Abyss Shrine, you have Abyss Shrine, you want to ideally prioritize getting infantry to get maximum disruptions, or if you feel like you want to play around Nibiru, you can definitely, you know, discard add Minstrel here. But the problem is if you use Minstrel here, you don't have access to that third body on field. So that's why this is the only line that makes sense to not respect Nibiru in a way, because I mean either way you still have plays regardless. So this is the for me to get maximum interruptions. When you see a Abyss Shrine, you want to at least prioritize getting infantry in your hand so that on your opponent's turn it is a disruption, because a lot of people do not know that this is an interaction. So now I'm telling you now, if you are a person that's watching this and wants to know how to face against Mermail Pure or any variant of Mermail, this card is an interruption. You ideally would core buy this, but the problem is we can just chain to it, so you can't really deal with it. Even if you know it's a disruption, you can just respond to it and then just discard, provided you have a water monster to discard, because you can't just okay, you can discard any card, but ideally it wants to be a water monster. But if for some reason you're getting baited out by a core buy or whatever, or they know what your effect does, just discard any card that you don't want to see, and then you get a free draw. So it doesn't really matter. So either way, even if you know it's an interruption, you can't really deal with it, because it has to be like obviously you know this is a disruption, but your opponent doesn't really know what to do. So a lot of people don't even know what to do when this card resolves, because they actually want to ash this, but this is not the main effect you want to worry about. It's actually the infantry. It could also be even it could also even be a Neptabyss reborning an Atlantean, which could be a Poseidra, which is another disruption, spinning a card back. So there's like a lot of lines you can do with the Abyss Shrine engraved. So especially if you have any line that has a Abyss Shrine involved, your priority will probably be to, if you're worried about Nibiru, you can search Minstrel. If you're worried about if you want to get maximum interruptions, then you obviously will search for infantry or whatever sea serpent that you need. Maybe the second Neptabyss if you need to, but normally I like to use second Neptabyss in the deck because, again, just to have more options. But yeah, that's just to point out that that's what I like about the Shrine, because your opponent literally cannot deal with this card. Only the card that they resolve, that they discard, that can trigger. But otherwise, this is what you do. It's exactly the same line that you're doing. So we're going to speed up the combo, and again, this is showing you the Argonaut line, then I'll show you the Bubble Reef line, and I'll go to the next combo. But it's basically the same thing as you can see. Like, so whether you have Abyss Shrine Dragoons or Minstrel Dragoons, you still have plays. So even if you don't open the best combo in Neptabyss, you still have access to it in a way. So this is a really flexible combo. You always have a discard available for Marincess Wave. Remember, you're not even using any other Marincess monsters. You're just using Seahorse, which is like obviously part of the engine why it makes this thing so flexible. So it's not like you need like a billion cards to make it work. Yes, obviously in the main deck you need to make it work, but you don't need to do a lot of commitment, like in terms of like a crazy combo or whatever. It's like literally the same thing you're doing. Once you get to a point, okay, I can decide what I want to do, and I go from there. Because at the end of the day, your Marincess combos are still going to be there, but now these are slightly more condensed Marincess combos. Like you don't have to go like crazy blue tank, send this, extend there. No, this is just like, okay, once you get bodies on field, it's much easier to go into these lines. So, and like you said, it doesn't require even a lot of setup. Just 3 bodies on field and an extender for Crystal Heart. That's either Seahorse or Aqua Angel. Once you have that, then it's pretty much free reign from there. You can decide what you want to do, and that's it. Because now you're no longer driven by, oh, I need to open certain number of extenders to do a play. Now, okay, if I have the setup, I can do the play regardless. So that's the nice thing about it. So again, just showing you the combo for Abyss Shrine and Dragoons, but with in this case going for the Bubble Reef line. So those are all the basic combos that I showcased to you, with Dragoon being a discard for either Abyss Teus, Poseidra, and Abyss Shrine. Now with Shadow Squad, it's slightly different because there you have to remember Shadow Squad summons from the deck a Mermail or Atlantean. So in this case, Shadow Squad normally will summon Abyss Pike, but in this instance, you're actually going to be doing it slightly different. So if you have Shadow Squad and a discard, in this case with Abyss Teus or any other card, the sequencing is going to be actually quite important. So you can actually mess up the line, because what's your priority again? Getting 3 bodies on field, having a Marincess to extend into from Crystal Heart or whatever, and then you still have potentially either anti-nib line, or you can get heavy infantry depending on what you need. So let's see what you can do with Shadow Squad now, because again, Shadow Squad is seen as a brick in a way, but it's not a bad thing if you can discard it to trigger it. So Dragoons is the same thing. Dragoons on its own doesn't do anything, but if you discard it, it will do something. So let's see what we can do here with Abyss Teus and Shadow Squad. So we're going to use the same thing. Abyss Teus, send Shadow Squad, then on 10, 2 separate chains, chain link 1, Shadow Squad, chain link 2, Abyss Teus, so that at least your Shadow Squad will not get Ash, or even Dominus Impulse, even if they have it. They can't do that. Obviously, they can still max C or Fool Loss, but they can't Ash it. And normally, this is a good Ash for the Shadow Squad. If you're holding on Ash to something, rather save your Ash for Shadow Squad, because it's like the best choke point, I would say. Provided they don't have any other extension, of course. But in this case here, you can't really Ash because you are chain link blocking with the Abyss Teus. So that's the nice thing about this line, because you are in a way chain blocking, you know, the Shadow Squad Dragoon. So they can only Ash Abyss Teus, but that's not a good Ash also. So we're gonna act both of them. And we're going to add Abyss Shrine again. Abyss Teus helps you play around Droll better because you're searching at that point. So here, you can see we search Abyss Pike here, right? We discard the Abyss Shrine, and we actually add Seal. So this is slightly different, because you could have said, okay, why can't I summon the Neptabyss here? Remember, what does Neptabyss do? Neptabyss sends Shadow Squad already to trigger Dragoons, but now the problem is you already sent Shadow Squad already, so now you can't summon, you know, another body from the deck. So now you actually have to summon Abyss Pike here and discard your Abyss Shrine or whatever card you add off Abyss Teus. But I like to put Abyss Shrine for that. I have that additional disruption potentially in the grave for whatever reason, and then I search for Isios. But now remember, I have a normal summon here because this is a special summon and a special summon. So now I have Seos here, and I actually normal summon. So this is the only time where I actually would normal summon a Marincess Seos here, because I still want to get 3 bodies on field, but that's how I do it. So I go Seos here, and I actually link off into Blue Slug. Right? This is so this is important, because you want to make sure that you have 3 bodies still, and you still do, because remember, like I said, even if you go Blue Slug first, like you see in this case, I normal summon Blue Slug, I still was able to link off, you know, get the COs back, because it's the special summoning ability is still there. So I still go into Crystal Heart, the same thing, then I go to Seahorse, and then again, it's slightly different now because I don't have access to Blue Slug. This is now the Argonaut line again, where I search for you know, the field spell, and then the same combo is the same. The only difference now is there's no Blue Slug here. So when you go for Foreign Enemy is going to reborn anything, right? Note, do not reborn the main deck Seos. Do not, because remember, you're not going to be using Blue Slug here, because remember, you already used Blue Slug already in the combo, so you don't have to use Seahorse to make a link 1 Blue Slug. You've already used that effect already, so you still are going to do that. So just reborn a Sea Angel, and then you're going to go into Coral Triangle. So now you're going to add back something. This is the line where you're going to add something back. You're going to add back the Seos, and then you discard it, and then you add Wave, and then you still have the same endboard. So you see, slightly different variation, but you still end up with the same endboard. So it's the same. So I would say this one's more advanced than the other ones because the other ones were quite basic because you were relying on a Neptabyss to start you to change the Shadow Squad, summon a body from the deck, and it's actually easier. But this one is a bit more advanced than the other ones because you have to do the sequencing right. Otherwise, you can literally mess it up because again, you can't change Shadow Squad twice because you can only summon the Shadow Squad from the deck once. So the most important line was to summon Abyss Spike, discard whatever you add off Abyss Teus, search for Seals, normal summon it, and then go for Blue Slug early. I wouldn't recommend going for Sea Angel early. Go for Blue Slug early. Because worst case, what's going to happen? You're still going to have two bodies. Then you can make Core an Enemy Reborn and you can still make the same line again. So it doesn't fundamentally change anything, but the sequencing is very important. So if you understand the interaction, then I think you'll be able to still achieve the same line. And you see, we still have the same end board. Instead of we got there slightly. So even with Shadow Squad in the hand, we had Abyss Teus to discard. It's not actually a brick. So if you have Abyss Teus and Shadow Squad, that's a line that you can do. Alright, so now here is the same thing, but now the difference is going to be now trying to go for a Bubble Reef line here. What do you do? You're going to add same thing, add Abyss Shrine, turn from the deck, the Spike, discard it, add the Seahorse, normal summon it, and then you're going to add, go link it to Blue Slug, add back Seahorse, and then now here you do this. The line doesn't really change. It's the exact same thing, right? The only difference is here now is that you go into Neptabyss, Seahorse is going to bring back go into Sea Angel, get Dive, Reborn a Seahorse of course, and now you don't go to Blue Slug, you go straight into the Link 2 and you still get the same outcome. So the only difference between the regular line that you would have done to go to the Bubble Reef or whatever and the Argonaut is that you don't go into Blue Slug later, you go into Blue Slug earlier. That's the only difference. And now the difference is you do normal summon actually the Seahorse, whereas in the other combos you never normal summoned it. So you see, it still gives you the same inboard, but now the difference is this now the normal summon is not a Neptabyss, is actually Seahorse. So even though you ideally don't want to normal summon Seahorse, you can do it in these specific lines. So that's why I'm showcasing to you you see the other ones were quite basic, but now we're getting to the more complex one where, okay, you still get to the same inboard, but now how you get there is going to be a bit different. So I hope you appreciate, okay, you can see learning the basic ones, like, the other ones were kind of relatively easy because Dragoons pretty much gives you access to Neptabyss, but now Shadow Squad doesn't necessarily give you access to Neptabyss. Because now remember, you can only summon from the deck once, so you ideally want to summon, Abyss Spike if you have a discard like Abyss Shrine or Teus. Now, again, this is me now testing a lot of combos. Not all of them are going to work out, so I did do a lot of testing, and I found that these are the combos that worked out. So do appreciate, okay, I actually did spend the time actually doing this, like testing beforehand. So again, because I want to give you guys the best combos that you can do that are consistent, because the other ones are based on different variations and so on. So if you want to see those ones where I just go like free reign, do some test hand, just like with a certain hand, specifically the 2-corner, because there are a lot of bonus combos that you can do, but those ones are very dependent on what you want to go for. So I'd rather show you the basic ones first. These are the end boards, this is the basic line, and you go from there, and then we take it from there. But yeah, this is literally, like, I would say this is more like the medium combo, because it's slightly different in terms of the sequencing. But it's not that really a change, it's that now obviously you have to normal summon Seahorse and go Blue Slug early. That's the only major change. Okay. So again, we are continuing with the trend of advanced combos. So this is now with Abyss Shrine and Shadow Squad. So again, you must always remember what the priority is. We still want to get 3 bodies on field, and we still want to be able to go to our Argonaut line or Bubble Reef line. Now the difference here is a bit different, because with the Abyss Teus, you are searching a monster. which is normally Abyss Shrine. But now, if you have Abyss Shrine already, you can technically still search, but you can also special summon as well. So now you have to do it slightly different. So now this line is totally different to the Abyss Teus Shadow Squad line, and I'll show you why. So you're going to use Abyss Shrine to tribute Shadow Squad. You're going to add Abyss Teus, right? Use Shadow Squad to summon Neptabyss. This is the only time where you would summon Neptabyss, because I'll show you based on the line what's happening. Because remember, we showcased earlier the Abyss Teus Dragoon combo. Then you'll see what happens there. But Neptabyss is going to be important in this line because of specific things. So you'll see now. Neptabyss is going to send Dragoons. He's going to add Dragoons. Dragoons is going to add a Poseidra. So you ask yourself, why did we do this? Because again, we are trying to ensure that we get 3 bodies on field, and somehow, some way, we have to get Pike on the field somehow. So this is the only way we can do it. Now I'm going to use Abyss Teus to discard the Poseidra, specifically the Poseidra, because you obviously want to make sure you trigger Dragoons again. But in this case, you can discard the Poseidra, it's totally fine. Because remember, you use Dragoons to search it anyway. So you ideally want to keep this full, you know, something else to discard. So you use Abyss Teus to summon, and then what does Abyss Teus do? Searches a Mermail, or yeah, it searches a level 4 or lower Mermail. Remember, Shadow Squad is a Mermail as well. It's Mermail by name, but it's always treated as an Atlantean card. So that's why you can search it over Abyss Teus. But Abyss Teus can search Abyss Spike. So now, again, similar to the Abyss Teus Shadow Squad line, where the normal summon was Seahorse, the difference now is here, you can see it, the difference now is going to be, the normal summon is going to be the Abyss Spike. Abyss Spike normal summon, and guess what? You still have the 3 bodies on field. Discard Dragoons, add Seahorse. Dragoons can add again a Minstrel or Infantry. Now again, because we use Abyss Shrine here, your priority is to get Infantry, because that's going to be a disruption. Because let's say you get Max Seed here or whatever at this point. At least prioritize interruptions over anything else, because that's your best play against a Max Seed full loss. Because unfortunately, you have to stop here because you don't get into too many summons. So the best play is to, okay, get rid of Abyss Shrine Engrave. You normal summon, right? Doesn't trigger any summons. You get a Water Monster, which is in any case follow up, and then you're gonna at least have Infantry in your hand for the opponent's turn. So worst case scenario, if you get Max Seed or a full loss at this point, it's totally fine because you haven't used your extra deck at this point. Or you've already summoned from deck already, but you've got like maximum value already coming out of this. So this is a very unique line because you notice Abyss Teus and Shadow Squad is going to give you a normal summon Seahorse, and you go from there. But in this case, and you summon Abyss Spike from the deck still. But now in this line, Shadow Squad is going to summon the Neptabyss because you want to get access to your Abyss Teus to search for your Abyss Spike. Because remember, you can't summon again the Abyss Spike because remember, you have nothing to discard. That's why, because remember, Abyss Shrine will send the Shadow Squad, but now remember, we're assuming you have no other cards in your hand. So you don't want to rely on having other cards to play, because you want to just, okay, based on these 2 cards alone, can I still make a play? You can. And then you go from there. Same thing, same lines. Once you got the 3 bodies on field and your seals to summon, you're pretty much good to go. And the combo is going to be the same, so I'm not going to repeat what's being said here, but you can see based on interruptions, you can see what it ends up with the same. So this is Argonaut line, we're going to do the Bubble Reef line afterwards, and then I'll show you some other combos. So again, just showcasing to you the Abyss Shrine line again, very important. Add Abyss Teus, do not summon it. Summon Neptune from the deck. Search Dragoons, add Dragoons. Dragoons will add a Poseidra or any Sea Serpent, discard it, and then get Abyss Teus to summon. Trigger the search Abyss Spike. Abyss Spike will send the final Dragoons, and then you can go for your normal 9 after that. So it's literally the same thing, but the sequencing is very important because you open Abyss Teus with Shadow Squad, you obviously will summon Abyss Spike. But now because if you open Abyss Shrine in this case, you cannot do that because you won't have any cards to discard or to search from. So that's the problem with that, because Abyss Teus does need a water monster to summon itself from the hand, which is not a once per turn, by the way. So you can use it infinitely. So long as you have water monsters in your hand, you can infinitely summon it if you don't negate it and destroy it. So something like in the Power USA, you can eat up all the negates if they do that. So that's something you have to identify that's important when you're doing this specific line specifically. So for Abyss Shrine, Shadow Squad, just remember the normal summon is going to be Abyss Spike priority. But in the Abyss Teus Shadow Squad line, you're going to normal summon Seals. That's the only difference. And then your summon from the deck of Shadow Squad is different. So in this line here, Shrine and Shadow Squad, your summon from the deck is going to be Neptabyss. But in your Abyss Teus Shadow Squad line, it's going to be Abyss Spikes. That's it. So I hope you appreciate. You can see that the difficulty is getting a bit slightly trickier because you have to understand the interactions of your deck and the cards. So once you understand the interaction of your deck, then you know, okay, these are the lines that actually will make more sense and more consistent. Because there are some other lines which are a bit weird, so that's why, like for example, Poseidra and Shadow Squad doesn't really work because it's a very awkward hand. Because Poseidra will send the Shadow Squad, but then what do you summon? Because you don't have any other cards in your hand. Neptabyss going to add Dragoons, send Dragoons, but again, nothing to extend because you already used Poseidra's effect, and Dragoon can only search Sea Serpents, so that's why Poseidra Shadow line is not really ideal. So again, with the Dragoon combo, there's a lot of flexibility. With the Shadow Squad line, it's a bit tricky. So you have to just make sure that the sequencing is important. So that's why I want you to rather, see and appreciate, okay, there are some basic ones which you want to obviously get that first, but obviously you can't have a situation where, okay, look, I have a Shadow Squad and Abyss Shrine or Abyss Teus. It's not the end of the world. So that's why I'm showcasing to you guys that you can still do these other lines if you want to. Alright, so just to end up the basic combos, I thought I'd just showcase to you guys, okay, because people obviously want to know, okay, how do you actually fare against a card like Droll and Lockbird? So we all know Droll is quite prevalent, especially, in Master Duel. Although it's not as popular, it can come up in some situations where, okay, yes, you could get Droll, because there are some decks which literally search a lot. I mean, pretty much every deck searches, but sometimes it can be at a crucial point where now if you Droll them there, their turn normally ends. So in the past, when it came to Marincess, normally our first search is going to be adding a spell. Then at that point we can't have access to the trap. So now it kind of messes up our combo a little bit because you can only end on a link 3 and a link 4 without wave, which is kind of risky. I mean, you can still get your follow-up, but now remember, you don't get additional search of wave, which is your most powerful card, which is at the end of your combo. But the nice thing about Mermail is that you search at the beginning, so you can have a way to play around it. So and like I said, there are certain cards in your deck that you play specifically to play around Droll. So I'm not even talking about Abyss Shrine here. We're talking about another card which you can actually summon off Shadow Squad to help you play around Droll, because it'll give you the same thing of getting 3 bodies to make your link plays. So what I mean by that, I'll show you a basic line. So again, with the 1 card combo, Neptabyss is the easier one to explain because that one is what normally people would start off with. So you're going to go Neptabyss, change Shadow Squad as per usual, add Dragoons, because again, we are assuming we're going for the normal line, okay, then, they're going to add chain link, next chain, Shadow Squad chain link 1, and now they draw. So now you see there, they're saying now you want to draw. Now what do? It's like, oh, now my combo is over, because that's the big difference between Mermail pure decks and Mermail Marincess, because in the pure Mermail deck, they're not playing a specific card which helps them play around Droll. if they want to play around Droll, they have to add Abyss Shrine first, but then that actually makes their combo not ideal, not optimal, because now you always want to prioritize Droll or playing around Droll, but at the same time you also want to do your maximum combo. So at least this will still give you, you know, a play even if you get Droll. So I would advise Mermail players, if you're playing pure or not, I would consider running this card, though it is a brick, like a complete garnet. Like you ideally want this to be in your deck or having access to search it, but I'll show you what you're going to summon off this. You're going to summon not Abyss Pipe, you're going to summon this card, the Abyss Die. So I already kind of showcased you like in my intro video, like why this is a very useful card, because again, this is like the best card that I found that actually helps you play around Droll, because you can't just think about, okay, oh, you're resolving your normal combo. So that's why I like this card, because it has two effects. You can either add it when you add it from deck to the hand. You can summon this card from your hand, cool. But that one requires a Mermail monster on the field to activate that effect. But then the secondary effect, when the card is special summoned by the effect of a Mermail monster, which is a Shadow Squad, you can target level 3 or lower Mermail, which is the Shadow Squad, and special summon it. Now you can only use one effect per turn, only once a turn, but that's fine, because when you're on the Droll or when you're going second, this is the play that you do when you're using Shadow Squad. You're not going to be sending Abyss Spike, you'll be sending this card, because this card will give you 3 bodies on field. And why do I do that? Because under Droll you can still get 3 bodies, right, which is like this. Or going second, this is nice because you need 3 bodies. You have a discard, which can be Dragoons, right? Remember, you're discarding, even though you're not going to be adding, you can still discard Dragoons, even though it will trigger, it won't obviously activate if you're under Droll, but if you are not under Droll, it will search a body. Then what you have access to? You have access to Poseidra Dragonaut, because Dragonaut requires 3 level 7s, and this modulates all the monsters that are on the field currently to level 7. So 3 bodies on field, instant level 7, exceeds, you can board break the field, and you can go from there. So that's why I like that play going second. But if you get Droll, this is also good under Droll. And then what can you do with this play? You just go for the Link Summon. You go Crystal Heart, because this is again minimal summoning, but still giving you maximum, you know, follow up and some sort of interaction. So you go Core Enemy here, and you're gonna go into Crystal Heart, and then that's it. Because remember, there's no point of going into you know, for a triangle and all those things, because remember, you don't have access to those cards anymore. Because remember, there's no Marincess you're searching at this point. So because you're not searching any Marincess cards, you can't go into, you know, Core Triangle. But if, let's say, because remember, Droll is always dependent on how good your hand is. If your hand is good and you have Marincess cards, then you can go for Core Triangle still, you know, all that follow up. But obviously you cannot search anything. But I would still prioritize getting Core Triangle if you have that extension. But we're obviously assuming you don't have. This is what you do. So that's how you play it out. So this is again still a decent combo under Droll, because you see, one card Neptabyss can play around Droll. It can help you play while going second, because it gives you 3 bodies on field, which is what normally Marincess struggles to do, gives bodies on field. This can give you a body. And most people are not playing this card because, again, a lot of people consider these cards as like bricks or garnets, so they don't want to obviously run those cards. But at the same time, then their players are not optimal under cards like Droll or whatever. Because you see, now we don't care if we're under Droll or whatever. We still have plays. Obviously, if you open it, it's bad, but it is what it is. Just like with every deck. I mean, even the most consistent decks out there can still break, because remember, they obviously maximize non-engine, and they only open non-engine, and sometimes the engine that they have is not enough. So it is a garnet, because you ideally want this to be in the deck, but worst case scenario, it's not a bad card, because it's like one of the best answers to play around Droll, and also one of your best cards going second, because you're not summoning a Abyss Spike going second. No, you're not doing that, because you're trying to break the board and trying to beat out interruption. So you're trying as much as possible to break interactions, especially going second. But under going first, it also is really nice to go into at least a link 4. And mind you, you still have, you know, you can banish a monster, a water monster here. You potentially can get a wave randomly to your hand or another decent hand trap. Then you can go from there. Obviously, you also have Droll yourself, but this is still better than nothing. I mean, yes, you don't have any Marincess links for follow-up, but remember you have link 2. If you draw Marincess next turn, you can still play the game. So it's not really that bad, the combo on the draw, I would say. So whereas before, you would just make an awkward hand and then an awkward play, and then it's like, okay, there's no real like follow-up. Whereas this kind of is better than nothing. It's a link 4 without wave, which is, okay, it's better than, it's without any Marincess cards, this is decent. Given that, you know, it is generic, like Core Enemy, but still. So, yeah. So that's just like a, you know, a bonus combo just to wrap up again the basic, you know, 1 card, 2 card combos. And that is that. So there are some other bonus combos which you know, which now basically referred to as drawing the brick. So we're talking about Abyss Pike now. So what if you open Abyss Pike? What if you play Ice Jade Ron? What if you play Tidal? What if you play Order? So I do have those other combos, but I want to release this to you guys first just to give you like an idea of, okay, this is the basics, because those combos are literally advanced. I don't want to dump all of them here in this one segment, because I feel like I want to give you the basics first, and then we can release the advanced stuff for those guys who want to know it, because again, some of those cards are optional, so that's why I'm not putting it in this. But these cards are the cards you will play. So these are the combos you can do, you know, the 1 card, 2 card combos with the variations. And yeah, it really is something that you can do. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up the combos, the basic combos for Mermail Marincess. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you are struggling, feel free to check out my streams, my videos, to check other replays. I would highly recommend for going second replays. You know, there'll be a dual analysis coming up, you know, whenever that gets released. I'll put a link in the description for all of that when it gets released. But basically, this will come out first before then, because I'll give you the play-by-play of what the mindset is going second against specific matchups. So it will help you to get the understanding of why these cards are running the deck and what the playstyle is. And, you know, because that's what I've been saying for a long time, you know, a deck that, you know, was struggling a lot going second, now it's a lot easier to play into boards going second versus before. It was like, okay, we had to pray that they had like no negates or whatever, and we hand trapped them well. But now you don't have to really depend on it. You can actually just break the board with just pure engine, and that's the beauty of it. So those videos will come. Okay, the advanced combos. If you want to see the advanced combos, leave a like on this video, and I'll say, okay, you guys want to see it, then I'll also drop that at a later stage. For those who want to play those cards, I'll give you combos specifically for that. But these are the ones that you'll be doing more often than not. And yes, that is the combos. I hope you enjoyed. And again, if you want to see more gameplay from me on playing this deck, check me out on my streams. I stream when I can, but you obviously get the more better perspective, you know, when you're seeing it live in person. And also, I always recommend practicing. I did mention this in my introduction video. You know, to always practice as much as possible. Don't just, yes, you can watch me, but I also would recommend you also practice, you know, the combos it yourself. Then you can actually get used to it, especially the beginning ones. Then you can understand, okay, this is what leads you to this, therefore you can use that to get to somewhere else. So there's always a path leading to Rome, and you have to start from somewhere. So I hope this video was insightful, and yeah, stick around for the future, you know, showcase. But until then, this is Mermail Marincess basic combo. So I hope you guys have a good day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.